Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual. Hello and welcome back to Ritual. I am Amy Harvey and I am here with
her husband,
Paddy Harvey.
Hello.
Yay!
Woo, 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 woo.
Woo, 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 woo,
Woo, woo, woo.
We are in the festive mood today, aren't we?
We sure are. It's June.
Which means there's something very exciting happening. What is it?
It's nearly birthday
It
month.
is nearly birthday month. Side note, Paddy's born on the 24th of July. I'm born on the 27th, which means we are both Leos, in case you didn't realize. But before that, it's Yule.
It's Yule.
I'm even wearing a Christmas jumper today.
Oh,
Yeah,
I should have brought a hat.
I know. Next year. That's all right. Should we cue some festive music?
Yes, hold on, give me 1 second. And boop, beep, boop, boop, boop.
I love it. I love it. Now it's really Yule.
All right, and go away.
So today we're going to be talking all things Yule.
Mm-hmm.
See how many Yule puns we can get out there as well. You'll have the best time listening to us. There's the first one.
You'll better believe it.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll work on it.
Okay.
So should we just dive right in?
What are we diving into?
How are you, Paddy?
It's
It's been a while since you've been on.
It has. It's been.
We've missed you.
It's been a few weeks, I think. I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm a wee bit like it's winter and whatnot, so I'm feeling a wee bit more snuggly.
It's been a little bit depressing here, to be honest. It's rained for about 4 years, it feels like.
5 days.
No, it's been literally
It's
2
been
weeks.
4 years.
It's been
It's just
2
straight
weeks.
rain. Yeah, so I'm feeling a wee bit snuggle, a wee bit tired. But I'm good. I'm really good. Like, I think, there's a lot happening with me at the minute, as you know, because
Yes, I live with
we're
you.
married. But I don't know. I think we're doing all right. We're doing all right, aren't we?
I feel we're good.
I feel not
Like
as
as a
in like
couple?
as a couple. I think we're fine as a
Is
couple.
this a relationship episode?
Anyway, one time. No, I think no. I mean,
I
like,
think
as
we're
in
good.
life, we're doing well. Like, we've got work. We've got
There are things
businesses.
happening.
We've got kids. We've got home life.
The sun is out today.
The sun is out.
This is actually a new thing if you're watching this. We're in the daytime.
Yeah, usually we're recording
Yeah,
at
in the
nighttime.
darkness. But today there's no kids. The house is quiet. We won't be yelling at anybody today. Maybe the dogs,
Maybe.
if you're lucky.
How are you,
I'm good.
Amy Harvey?
I'm good. I'm feeling good today. Like I said, the rain has affected me. I'm not the biggest winter person. I will admit I don't like being cold. I always like the change. Once you have like all the heat, you do want the cold change, but having rain every single day, like I like winter mornings where it's like this. It's
Crisp
sunny,
and sunny,
crisp
yeah.
and frosty, and it's so
Blue
beautiful.
sky.
But when it rains every day, I'm just like, ugh.
Well, you can't do
So,
anything. You can't.
You can't
When
do
you feel
anything.
like you can't anyway.
No, you feel sleepy and whatever. So today I feel good because it's sunny and it's nice. Things are happening, and it's nearly Yule, and
It is.
everyone loves Yule.
Everyone does love Yule.
I feel like Yule is probably, I'd say, the most popular with Samhain.
Samhain, definitely. Well, and that's obviously because, in modern day life, there's so much of an emphasis on Christmas and Halloween, and they're so similar in that way.
Yeah. I guess the thing is, though, for us here in the Southern Hemisphere, Yule isn't at Christmas time, which is, I think, where people get very confused of how to celebrate, because you do associate it so much with Christmas time. Because that's what, like, exactly, all the songs are about Christmas time. But here, there's no, Christmas lights in the streets. There's no Christmas trees in the shopping centres.
But that doesn't mean that you can't do that.
I'm just saying the vibe is different.
If anything, it means you get 2 Christmases.
Well, you do. And I
2 chances to celebrate.
I separate the two. Christmas and Yule are different.
They are different.
Christmas is more of the commercial holiday for me. It's all about Santa Claus, presents, all that stuff. All the Christmas vibes. Where Yule is like more of the spiritual side.
Yes, and you can combine the both.
You can.
And obviously,
which we'll talk about.
If you're a practicing Christian, you do combine the both. But I think, I think it's, if anything, in the Southern Hemisphere, you get the chance to make it completely
its own thing,
spiritual, and it doesn't meld with the other. Although you're wearing the jumper, so it's a good opportunity, like I say, to
Christmas vibes.
Just twice.
Just double throw it. Does that make sense?
Not at all.
Whatever. Anyway, let's
just
start.
Double throw it. He's making up words now and expressions.
So,
okay.
Yule, also known as the winter solstice, one of the 8 Sabbats and turns of the witch's wheel. So Yule is celebrated in the Southern Hemisphere, usually on the 20th to the 21st of June. But if you're in the north, it's on December in the north. It's on December 21st to the 22nd, traditionally on a pagan calendar,
which you can buy at Amy's. No, you can't.
One day, write it down. So outside, winter has taken over the land, and we arrive at the longest night of the year. The earth is quiet. Life almost feels as though it has frozen for just a moment. Yule is a beautiful time to curl up in your cozy home in a solitary act of contemplation and embrace what should be the natural time for our bodies to rest and hibernate.
And I totally feel that.
I totally feel that too. That's why I'm so sleepy at the moment.
Me too. I'm like a burr. And it is a good time, because obviously it takes a bit more effort to leave the house and go out, and someone says, do you want to go out for such and such? Yeah, I know. But it is nice because and you've been doing this a bit, where you've been going, I'm just going to go read, and I'll just sit, and it's good to have that sort of alone.
Sorry, I choked on my tea.
Okay?
I tried so hard to not, but it just came out.
I tried to choke professionally.
Sorry.
Just die in peace and quiet. I'm sorry, I didn't want to disturb you while I was asphyxiating on my tea.
I do apologize.
Anyway, I think I'm done.
So while we are in our darkest time, it is also a time to celebrate, as the light will soon return and growth and new life and abundance will be coming back to us. So that's something that we always need to remember at this time. Even though we're going into like the heart of winter, it does mean that soon it will be passing and the spring will be with us once more.
Yeah.
It always, because especially for those people who get like seasonal depression, you need to remember everything is always moving.
Yeah.
And Yule is a good time to remember that the light will return. Even though sometimes it feels like it's going on forever, nothing is forever.
I read this quote this morning that somewhat relates to what you just said. This woman on LinkedIn said, I say I'm always happy, and people think that means I'm happy no matter what, even when bad things are happening. But that's not how I define happiness. Happiness just means that even whenever things are tough, it's because I know that there's good things coming afterwards. So it's not being happy all the time. It's being happy even whenever you're in a dark place, knowing that good things are coming. And that's kind of relates in that way when you go, oh, winter, and you go, but it means that we're moving forward towards spring.
Exactly. It's like after every storm, there's a rainbow.
Yeah, and after every night,
There's the sun.
there's a bright
Unless
day.
you're in
And
Melbourne.
after every dark night, there's a bright day.
Exactly. So let's look at how life used to be during the winter solstice, which again, this will help you kind of put things into perspective of how difficult it actually was back in the day.
This back in the day covers a long period of time, by the way. Back in the day is sort of anything pre
Electricity
70s.
and supermarkets. So people were well and truly in their homes at this point, escaping from the harsh winter elements outside. We would be turning to our food storage and enjoying things like root vegetables, grains, and preserved meats. Our days would be cut short to help preserve our candles and oils and all the things that brought us light. So that's why people would kind of embrace that sleepiness, because they're like, well, we're wasting our candles. We might as well just call it a day and go to sleep. And people's biggest concern would be whether or not they would have enough firewood to get them through the winter.
Yeah.
Because no firewood, not
No
good.
warm, yeah. No firewood.
No warm.
No warm.
So these days, we can keep our homes at a constant temperature. We can bring light in with the flick of a switch. We can eat fresh strawberries in July, and we can make any dish we desire, no matter what the weather conditions. So now more than ever, Yule should be a celebration of how grateful we should feel for all these amazing luxuries that we see as a basic part of life.
Yeah.
Which I think we often forget about how.
Yeah, true.
I mean, not that life is easy, but in comparison, we have it pretty easy. Like I mean, there's still people obviously who can freeze in the winter.
Oh,
but
totally.
Majority of us, especially if you're able to listen to a podcast, I assume you've got heat, a form of heat in your home. So I think taking this time to kind of like show that gratitude for like, I am very blessed because I have all these basic human rights, heat, water, food, just like that. It's just available whenever I need it.
So yeah, certainly if you live in a developed country, there's a high likelihood you have. And if you don't, hopefully there's services that can give you that.
Yes.
But I think you're talking majority of people. Whereas back then,
it was like a life or death time during winter. Like if you didn't use your time during autumn to harvest and really, and also I guess spring and summer to grow, then you were in big trouble.
What was that story about was it the squirrels?
The squirrels?
And during summer, one of the squirrels was like hiding all the acorns away, all the nuts, and the other one was just like eating them and running around going, man, he says, you need to think about what's coming. And he said, no, I'll be fine. And then autumn came, and he's like saying, before, like, you need to really sort of save some food. And no, I'll be fine. He just kept eating. And then in the middle of winter, there was no food, and he went out and he says, the wee squirrel knocked on his door. His door. And he said, have you got any food? He said, I got a ton here. I got a ton because I spent my time wisely. So that's like spring, summer is, drying out the wood and prepping and mending fence,
fences,
and sorting everything out and making the animals. And if you're eating animals, fattening them up and making them nice and juicy, because then you can preserve the meat for winter.
You had to be smart about it.
You don't want to dilly-dally.
No, you don't. So the winter solstice is most commonly seen as like the pagan Christmas. And it's one of the most celebrated worldwide, with so many cultures celebrating this midwinter point. And so when I was researching Yule, it's like, it's so hard to find out where things originated from, because everybody has their own form of this. And it's like, I think a lot of it is just really coincidental. And I think if you really wanted to deep dive and go way back, you look at things like Stonehenge and all the different points around the world where at certain solstices, the lights line up. Like, this is stuff that goes so far back that it's really hard to go, it was just the pagans. It was, you know, the Romans, the whatever. Like, everybody has this celebration at this point, which is kind of amazing. But of course, over time, everybody's kind of claimed, like, we did this first, blah, 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 blah. And then the Christians come in and say, we did everything. But, yeah, I did find, it's very interesting just to see, like, how big this time of year actually is around the world, going so far back. So I've got a few different ones that still are on to this day. So, for example, in Mexico, and I will try and get the names right. Don't hold it against me if I don't. But in Mexico, they celebrate Los Posadas. Is that how you'd say that?
Las
Posadas. A 9-day celebration over the winter solstice. So this would obviously be in December because they're up in the north. But during this festival,
in Mexico,
they're
in the
north.
southern hemisphere.
No, they're not. Mexico is considered in the northern hemisphere. If it's not, my mind is about to explode. It's South America, but it's in the northern hemisphere.
It's Central America.
Mexico is in the northern hemisphere. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's in the northern hemisphere.
No, you didn't. You said southern.
Okay.
We'll
Roll the tape, everyone.
And so what they do...
I actually think I said the southern hemisphere, but...
No, we all know you did.
Yeah.
We all heard it. Anyway,
let's move on.
During this festival, they have pilgrims who walk...
Not the John Wayne pilgrims.
No.
Hey, pilgrim.
No. I mean, he may have been there at some point. But,
you Mexicans.
So they would walk through the town and they would knock on all the doors asking for posada, which means shelter. And this is to commemorate the walk of Mary and Joseph looking for shelter.
Oh, yeah.
So they do this during their festival every year, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So heathens who celebrate Norse traditions, they celebrate, and actually I will say a lot of Yule traditions do come from Norse traditions,
like Scandinavia.
Yes, I would say majority of them would come from Norse tradition, which I thought was really interesting. And they do go way back. So yes, that's one area that can claim a lot of it. So they celebrate the winter solstice with a 12-day festival called the 12 Nights of Yule.
The 12 days of Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. So this begins on the winter solstice and it ends on January 1st.
Oh.
So each day focuses on a different activity. Some are celebrated with their kindred, which is like their coven, but they call it a kindred. And some are solitary. So some of these activities include gift giving, decorating a tree, lighting a Yule log, and dream divination. And then you have the Druids. So I was reading that there are some that believe that the ancient Druids didn't recognize Yule as they only celebrated fire festivals. So
they're more sun oriented than
yes. So sun festivals are Imbolc, Beltane, Lughnasadh, and Samhain. But I read that modern Druids honor the solstice as it's seen as a key astronomical event. So they would celebrate by creating a procession to a ritual location. They would raise energy and they would make offerings to the 3 realms, which is the land, sea, and sky. And then they would also make an offering to the gods, ancestors, and nature spirits. They would do divination and they would read omens for the new year.
Cool.
It is kind of cool, isn't it? I'd want to hang out with the Druids.
Yeah, it'd be sick.
Yeah.
Get me one of them cloaks.
I kind of
Just
think of
shuffle
like Outlander
around.
when I think of druids, because it's called the dance of the druids when they're around that,
Yeah.
the stones.
La, la, lee, la, la, wee, mo.
Beautiful.
La, la, lee, la, la, me.
Nice.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have Christmas, which is the Christ Mass. So we're looking at the more of the Christian tradition, which I'm sure everybody is aware of.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary, Joseph,
Christmas.
Star in the Sky.
What was that one we were talking about where you said something mass?
Candlemas.
Candlemas. Yeah. So mass is a celebration.
Yes, of Christ in the Christian eye.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I don't really think we need to get too much into that. Everybody's kind of aware.
I think everyone knows what Christmas is. Even if you're not Christian, even if you've never even studied Christianity, you would know exactly what Christmas is.
Vibe of
Everyone
Christian
knows it.
Christmas.
Yes.
Actually, do you know I was reading this thing about Santa Claus, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I saw that originally Santa Claus was meant, how they say one of the theories is that he comes from a saint called Saint Nicholas, and he was meant to be this really beautiful, jolly person who was like the saint of children. And he was very generous and would give children gifts. And that was originally meant to be on the 6th of December was when Saint Nicholas would come to give children gifts. But weirdly, the Christian, I think his name was Martin Luther, was like, no.
Lutheran Church.
Yes, was like, no. We're not having it on that day, because what we want to do is change it to December 25th so that children think that Jesus gives them gifts. Which I just want him to know it didn't work. To this day, children go, I get gifts from Santa. And it didn't work for them because I
think it'd be pretty sweet if a wee baby was running around with a big sack on his back. He can't even hold up the weight of his own head.
I know. So they were trying to change, like they wanted to get rid of like saints and all of that, and they just wanted it to be about Jesus. So they wanted
to get rid of the idea
to just
of
say
else,
Jesus gives me presents, but it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Kids just were like, Santa, he's the one.
Really?
Yeah.
Lutheran doesn't date back as far as early Christianity though, does it?
I don't see. I just read this briefly. I didn't get too in depth with dates and whatnot.
We need a fact check on this. Right, Mexico, northern, southern hemisphere. Who knows? It's a mystery.
It's not a mystery.
Lutheran Church. Who knows? It's a mystery.
It's not. Well, it was. His name was Martin.
Moving on.
Anyway, so how can we celebrate? Why are you laughing? We're all over the place today.
Because
what is happening to you?
You went in to defend yourself and I'm like, moving on.
All I'm saying is this is what I've read. I've done research. I don't know what you've done, but from my research,
you wanted me to be here and I'm here. Hello.
Anyway.
Okay.
How can we celebrate Yule is the question we're all here for.
Yep.
So should we start with our correspondences, all the little bits that will help you infuse that Yule magic into your life. So to start with, your altar decorations. What can you put on your altar? A wreath. And the wreath actually symbolizes the circle of life, which I think is really beautiful. Pine cones, which are in abundance if you're in our backyard at the moment. Every maybe 15 minutes, you'll hear a big bang on the roof and we'll just go, pine cone.
Pine cone.
A Yule log, which I'll get into a bit more later. A Yule tree. Ivy. A poinsettia. They're those really beautiful red flowers.
We had them.
We did have them, and then I think
the cat ate them.
Yeah, I think they're poisonous too.
She's still here.
She's fun. Bells, gifts, fairy lights, elves. all the magical things.
Yeah.
Yule is just so magical. It
I love
makes
it.
me so happy.
Mm.
For side note, I am like the biggest Christmas freak in the world.
Yeah.
Like it brings me so much joy. And I'll also put Yule in that as well. But
It goes you, then Santa.
yeah, me and Santa are besties. Like I need to be an elf. That's next life. Anyway, food, the next most important thing.
Yeah.
What do you make? So it's all about the roast, like roasted meat, roasted potatoes, roasted everything. Yummy roast meals at Yule.
Spuds.
Like think like typical Christmas meals. Eggnog, also delicious.
Delish.
Love eggnog. Cookies, again, one of my favorite things. These are basically all my food groups.
Brandy.
Yes.
Well, think about it.
Yes.
Because brandy what was the food?
Eggnog.
Eggnog. Brandy goes in eggnog, right?
Is it brandy or is it rum?
You can put brandy in there.
I think you can put both or either.
Think about the St. Bernards in the Swiss Alps. They have a little barrel of.
I want a St. Bernard so
much. They have a barrel of brandy.
Yeah.
For the cold because it warms them up, warms you up, right? When they rescue people.
Yeah.
Brandy.
Don't you put brandy in Christmas pudding?
Yes. Whenever I was a kid, we associated brandy with Santa because I think.
Yeah, you
would leave
brandy
a brandy
out for Santa. And he always drank it. He did in my house.
Yep. Yes. I think that is the same in mine. But yeah. So you can laugh.
No, you know what? I take my laugh back. You're right. Brandy is very much associated with this time. Well done for your contribution.
For its warming properties.
Fruit cake. Side note, not the biggest fan of fruit cakes.
Not the biggest fan.
That's okay. I know a lot of people are. This one though, gingerbread.
Oh, yeah.
I love gingerbread. And you know what? There's actually
root vegetables.
I should have looked into this because gingerbread is a pagan thing. And I know the Germans took it, but it is a pagan tradition. And I'm pretty sure it has something to do with like you make these cookies for good luck. And they used to like hang them on trees and whatever. This is not 100% factual. This is me slowly recalling memory.
As I'm talking.
I'm trying to stall so I can remember more. But gingerbread is a pagan thing and also delicious.
It is. And it's a root.
What?
You said root vegetables.
Oh, ginger. The gingerbread isn't a root.
No, but ginger comes from the ground.
It does.
Like a root vegetable.
It does. Very good.
What is going on?
What's happening today?
What happened?
It's the festive spirit. It's pouring out of us.
It's
mulled wine.
Seeping out.
Mulled wine.
Delish.
It's a good one.
Amy does a very delicious.
And if you want my recipe, you can actually jump on and look up the Yule Book of Shadows PDFs. And the mulled wine recipe is in it. I actually have it right here if you're looking. Woo! You can't read it though. You have to go and grab it.
I'll hold it up.
It's the best mulled wine, I'm going to say, ever.
It is pretty delicious.
I'll get into mulled wine as well, actually, a little bit later. And then things like sweet cakes, sweet honey cakes, anything delicious.
Anything to uplift you in the
that tastes
darker
good,
months. Yeah.
That's not particularly good for you, but is delicious. Yule. Colors. Can you guess the colors of Yule?
Black.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 colors.
Okay.
Go.
Green.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Red.
Yep. Gold and silver. Very good.
Yay!
Herbs and incense. So what can you burn in your home with your spell work and all of that? So a lot of these will have properties of abundance, happiness, but also protection, clearing away all the negative winter vibes. So that's kind of like the themes of all of these. So we've got bay, blessed thistle, cedar, chamomile, pine, frankincense, holly, juniper, oak, mistletoe, rosemary, sage, ash, sandalwood, orange peel, clove, patchouli, ginger, myrrh, cinnamon, nutmeg. For the Christian stories, you will see there was the myrrh, frankincense, and
Gold.
well, we mentioned gold in the colours, so we've ticked, tick, tick, tick.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Crystals, tiger's eye, ruby, diamond, garnet, bloodstone, carnelian, citrine, emerald, clear quartz.
Yep.
All the good ones.
All the same sort of colors as well.
Yeah, they are.
Red, gold, white.
The animals of Yule are goats, reindeers or stags, squirrels, wren, owl, robin, and a bear.
No.
The little snuggly bears.
The little bear.
They're so cute. And the activities, which we'll kind of get into now, but that things like decorating tree. You know what? I'm not going to read that one because we're going to talk about the activities. Strike
We're going to do that. Strike that from the record, please, Your Honour.
So things that you can do to celebrate Yule and the kind of traditions of Yule.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is, which we kind of touched on before, is embracing the energy of Yule.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is that real quiet time. So as I said, your body will naturally want to go and hibernate because you'd be going to bed earlier, you're spending more time inside, it's darker outside. So it's really like to embrace that. You don't have to do it every day, but taking time to embrace that solitary energy.
Mm-hmm.
So just like doing things like reading, like finding a book that will really kind of refill your soul. It could be a story, it could be something that you want to learn, but take the time to kind of read. You can do divination. Now is a good time for that as well, because the solstice is, they say, at a solstice time, so summer or winter,
Mm-hmm.
the energy around us is at peak.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously at every Sabbath it raises, but during a solstice is the highest. So spell work, divination, all of that stuff it's a really powerful time to do it. So divination will come through really fast. And we just had Samhain as well.
Mm.
So that energy is still lingering around. So I would definitely be doing that. They also say that during a solstice, it's a really high time for fae action as well. They love solstice times. And a lot of traditions as well are associated with the fae. Like they would do Christmas trees to get wishes from the fairies.
Mm-hmm.
So working with them at this time is really good. But yeah, just taking that time to slow down, do meditation, journal work is a really good one as well.
Yeah.
I love doing that around this time because it's all about like contemplation, deep diving into your own mind and going like, what do I want from here? Like, what do I want when the sun's back and have more energy? Like, what are my goals? What do I want to bring into my life? So yes, embrace the slow energy of Yule is one. The next one is the Christmas tree. Having a Christmas tree. So this is a pagan tradition that goes back as early as 4th century CE.
Mm-hmm.
So it's old.
Yeah.
And so what people would do is they would decorate an evergreen tree as it represents fertility and new life.
Mm-hmm.
And they would dress the tree with a light for each member of the family. And then they would all put on like an ornament that represented a wish that they wanted. So I don't know, maybe a gold coin for money or whatever, but they would decorate the tree with wishes. And some say that those wishes, like some would leave the tree outside, some would bring it in their home, but they would be granted by the fairies. But I guess to whoever you're wishing to, which I like. Like I like that. I mean, nowadays we just decorate the tree because it looks good, but I like the idea that they actually represented something that you want in your life.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of beautiful.
Intent
so yeah, things like orange peel, people would orange peel because that's like that could be happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of a beautiful.
We used to get oranges in our stockings.
What for that?
Christmas. I don't know.
Huh.
But it's just a tradition thing.
That's cool.
Don't forget, like in Ireland, you know, we have traditions that date
Yes, a lot of it. There was
back,
a lot of Irish,
and a lot of it was
traditions.
retained, and it was just like a fact that that's what happened.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at the reason why,
There's a
it
deeper
goes back
meaning.
to pre-Christianity.
Mhm.
And we just kind of did it and went along with it because that's what
Yeah.
you did. But that's yeah, we used to get oranges in our stockings.
Yeah, and nuts as well. Wasn't that another thing?
Nuts.
There was
The
a meaning
monkey
for
nuts.
nuts, but now I'm blanking.
We used to get them at Halloween as well. Monkey nuts.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm thinking of nuts.
We would get them at Christmas as well, I think. An orange in your stocking. I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
So another thing is a Yule log. So they say it originated in Germany, but from what I've seen, it's very much a Norse thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's like he said, she said with some of these things. It goes back a long time, the Yule log. And so what they would do is they would bring, no, I'm pretty sure it is Norse, and they would find a log, a huge giant log, and they would bring it into the house, and that would represent the return of the sun.
Okay.
And so everybody would write on the Yule log their wish for the new year and what they want when the sun returns, and then they would burn it in the fireplace. And I guess it's kind of like a representation of the sun taking over and whatever.
Yeah,
and so people still do that to this day. And often people will decorate the Yule log as well with, like, you know, all the colors of it, and you can carve in different things. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want. But I like, we're going to do a Yule log this year.
We are indeed, Amy.
We are indeed.
And we're going to burn it.
Yes, that's the point.
Afterwards.
Remember last year in the Yule ritual box, we had little mini Yule logs that you made.
That I made.
And
you could put candles in them.
They're candle holders, and they had little symbols etched into them.
Yeah.
They were cool. I still have mine in the house.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were good.
Hopefully people burnt them.
I hope not. They weren't really for burning. They were for your altar.
There's somebody at home going, oh, I burnt mine. Oh my God, was I not meant to? I loved it.
Another thing that you can do is a protection talisman that you can hang on your tree, which again, I think I did, was it last year or the year before, for the Yule ritual kit, where you can get like your own sort of like bauble that you can pull apart, and inside, this is the easiest way to do it. You can put things like, so there was cinnamon for abundance, star anise was for aid in divination work and like kind of opening up your psychic senses. There was, I think, bay for protection, all sorts of things like, I think there was like orange for happiness, and then you write on a piece of paper your wish for the Yule time. You close it all up and you hang it on your tree, and I think that's a really fun thing to do. I want to do that with the kids this year as well, just because it kind of like it's a nice like witchy activity to do, because you can really dive into like herbal magic, and then you've got the, you know, intention writing as well. But if you want to do it for protection, obviously you can aim it at that, but I think it's nice to kind of bring in different elements as well. So divinate,
it's like a wee present.
It is. It's like a little
wish bulb,
a little spell, a little like charm bag for your Christmas tree.
Yeah, I like it.
It's fun. Divination again is a really good one. As I said, the energy around you is heightened, and there's so many different forms of divination that you can do. So tarot, oracle cards, runes. You can do scrying with like a mirror or water. But I did read that, I mean, I don't know if we can really do it. I'm sure it's more of a place where it's snowing. But they would do divination using animal tracks. Which I thought was really fun. Cool. So the idea is that you would go out and find animal tracks that were kind of near your property, and then you would look at things like, what kind of animal is it? What does that animal symbolize? So like, for example, maybe
A
It's
deer.
a deer. What does a deer symbolize?
And where's it going?
What are the tracks doing? Are they
Yeah, right.
crossing over paths? Are they like parallel to your home? Are they walking away from you? Are they walking to you?
Yeah, right.
And so that was like one of the divinations they would do at Yule time. And it was said to kind of predict what your new year was going to be like.
And that deer's going, I was just walking funny that day. I didn't realize
I just saw legs.
he was going to plan his whole year on what I did.
The pressure. Every year they're like, I'm really going to mess with this guy.
Really carefully.
They go, Psst, bear, come over here. We're going to mess with them.
You take one step, I'll take another step.
Why does this deer have a bare foot?
We'll alternate, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. So, excuse me.
Stop coughing. Stop it.
So mulled wine, which we mentioned before, is another one. But I look at it in that you are creating like this magical potion that you can drink. It is a safe, drinkable potion. Because what is wrong with me?
Well, I mean,
where do
I start?
Because the mulled wine, the recipe is filled with so much herbal magic, and each ingredient, like even the sugar in it, is said to like bring sweetness into your life. So every single ingredient, do I have it here?
Well, it's like any sort of magical cooking. You're putting intent into it.
You are. And so making something like this, especially if you're having people over, it's like you're creating this magical potion that you're giving that wish to people.
Yeah.
So for example, like the cinnamon is for love and passion. Cloves is for friendship. Nutmeg is for good luck. Star anise is for protection and visions. Orange is good luck and love. Lemon removes negativity and bad luck, and the sugar brings sweetness and sweetens others to you.
Yeah.
So like spending that time kind of concocting and brewing up this beautiful potion, I think is like such a fun way to create something for yourself, but also for other people. And I mean, you don't have to have an alcoholic one if you don't drink. You can make it with non-alcoholic wine. I mean, a lot of it is burnt out when you're making it anyway, but I think, just like, even if you don't having people over, you could bring some to somebody. But I think because it's like part of Yule is that gift giving, you can create something using those witchy elements and give it as a gift, saying like, even if they don't celebrate Yule, going, I made some old wine, this is for you. And they don't have to know, but you know that you have created something.
You can just say, it's red wine, it's delicious.
You've like made something that's got so many beautiful, good properties in it, and you're giving it as a gift to somebody.
The flavors are really nice in that one as well. It's sweet and syrupy
and so spicy.
Delicious.
So I definitely recommend doing something like using that kitchen witchery, whether it's mulled wine or baking or whatever. So another one is feasting, having delicious food, which we've kind of already mentioned a few times, but it really is such a big part of Yule, is like coming together with people, whether it's friends, family, you can even do it by yourself, but spending the time to make...
Or bringing other people in who don't have people.
Exactly. Like it's really like spending that time, putting all your energy into creating something delicious and just like sharing it with others.
Yeah.
And celebrating whether it is the return of light or just the fact that you're there together. And, I think food is such a big part of a Sabbath. I know obviously it's because it's delicious, but I think it really just does bring people together.
And food is, joy. And if you're in the dark months and it's raining or snowing or cold and dark and dreary, having that warming deliciousness at a table with people and, good company makes you feel happier and more positive and more uplifted because you're around people and you're going, oh, this is delicious. This is so, would you like some warm mulled wine? Oh, I would. And it gets inside and makes you feel all yummy and tingly inside as well.
Absolutely.
And it's bringing, it's sort of, making those darker times just that little bit more yummy.
Yeah. Another one, which I think is really cute, and I think I might want to do this with the kids, is making bird feeders. Because obviously during this time, food for animals is quite scarce, especially for birds, and they like really get a hard time because they're out in the elements. They get rained on, it's freezing, and it's harder to find food because everything's kind of gone now.
They're not like those squirrels with the front doors.
They have not planned and got their squirrel houses. So making a bird feeder, it kind of just like helps them out through the winter. And they're super easy to do. Like I saw one where it's like a pine cone, you cover it in peanut butter and then roll it in birdseed, and it's like something as simple as that. Like there's so many different ones you can do, but I think like doing something like that, it kind of gives back to nature and to animals, and it's not so human focused. And especially if you have that real connection with nature, that's like something really special you can do.
And you can thank them for singing songs.
And remind them that the light is coming back to them too.
They are loved by us.
Now, another association with Yule is Santa Claus. And there, again, there's so many different like places where he originated from. Was he a saint? Was he this? I know there's one story where, because during this time they say that the Oak King is defeated by the Holly King. Yes, I think I got that right. And he dies. This is in the whole story with the god and the goddess. And so around this time, she's now pregnant with the god.
Yes.
Even though he just died.
Yes.
This is where around this time it gets a little bit confusing. But basically she is pregnant with the god who's also the Holly King.
Yes.
And so the Oak King has all these different names and associations. So one of them was Odin, but one of them is Santa Claus because he's meant to be this like jolly, happy dude and whatever. So like I said, there's so many stories to do with Santa, but I know you have a good one that you have told me before that I want you to share because it's a little bit different, but it's so interesting of where he originated from.
It is, and it goes back in the day. So I've got notes here. So this goes back to indigenous people of the northern part of, say, Norway, Denmark, Sweden area, northern Scandinavia. These people called the Sami people. And this goes way back. So this is where, so obviously reindeers were domesticated in this part of the world. They were used. It wasn't like the North Pole. They were actually used for especially obviously in winter. People would have a sleigh and they would have reindeer and they would have them as around their homes and whatnot. So the story goes is that these people, and this is where the idea that Santa was sort of omnipresent, is that there were shamans that would go from village to village in the colder months to help people and heal people. So there was lots of shamans. So obviously they could be in multiple places at the same time. And they would arrive in these villages, these towns, and they would sort of set up shop. They would have their yurt or their tent. And what would happen was they would go around the spruce tree, which is what typically a Christmas tree would look like. And underneath that would grow the fly agaric, the Amanita muscaria. If you look at your emojis, the little mushroom with the red and the white dots on it.
Like a typical mushroom that people
like a stereotype of a mushroom, yeah. And so what they would do is they would go around and pick them up, and they would pick up other mushrooms for their medicinal purposes. And so the idea where red baubles came from in the trees is that these shamans would put them in the trees to dry them, and that's where the look of red baubles came from. They would also tie them up and sort of loop them around the trees in order to do that. And so they would dry them, and and also what another method of drying them would be in a house on top of a sock, and that's kind of where the idea of a stocking came from as well, apparently.
That's so funny.
And so what would happen was, so I'm just reading this note again. So on top of the tree, the idea that the star on top of the tree came from Polaris, the brightest star in the sky, as well. So it's just amazing, all the little connections. And so by the time the mushrooms were dried, it'd be sort of like end of December, right? Mid to end of December. And what they would do is they would take these mushrooms and boil them into almost like a tea, and they'd either pick the strongest man or the weakest woman in the village, and
One, because he could take it and it didn't matter if she died.
yeah, because the reaction to these mushrooms was quite intense. What they would have to do is they would have to actually, they'd boil it up into a tea. They'd take the strongest guy or the weakest female, and they'd make them drink it. And they got violently ill. But what they would drink is they would urinate out this tea, and everyone would drink the tea. The urine, because it was a diluted version of it. And so, they would drink it, and they would almost get more alcoholic drunk than sort of hallucinogenic high. And I've sort of jumped ahead here, but in these snowy months, obviously these shamans would get around with reindeer and sleigh. And so when you were in your yurt, you had a little fire going, which obviously meant you had to have a flue. So you had a little sort of flap in the roof of your yurt, your tent. And on nights, whenever these shamans would get back to their homes, the little door to get into their tent was covered with snow. So they'd have to climb up the top of these turns and go down the chimneys, right? And that's so where that came from. Now, jumping back to the ceremony of this, drinking this flyagaric tea, they would drink it. Strongest male, weakest female would urinate it out. People would drink that. It would have this sort of not hallucinogenic, more alcoholic drunk sort of effect where it would sort of alter your state of mind. People would hallucinate on it. And because obviously these shamans would travel around with reindeer, sometimes people would see reindeer fly through the sky.
Wow.
Santa. One idea of Santa.
Crazy.
But makes perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense, doesn't it?
So a lot of the information is there's an Aubrey Marcus episode called Santa Sold Shrooms. Give it a listen, and
you should listen to Aubrey Marcus. His podcast is amazing, and he like really deep dives on a lot of stuff. Like he's very open to spiritual journeys. Like he does a lot of like ayahuasca and those kinds of things. So if that's something that interests you, check him out, because I do love Aubrey.
Love a bit of Aubrey.
Love a bit of Aubrey. But yes, that's Yule. Like
Yule,
I said, there's so much that you can talk about.
This could be a 5-part episode.
It could, but they're the basics for now. Maybe next year we'll deep dive even more on some things. But that's how you can celebrate. It's such a fun, beautiful Sabbath, and I love it so much, and I'm so excited for it. So thank you once again for joining me to discuss.
And thank you for having me, Amy.
It's always a pleasure.
It was lovely to meet you. Make sure you keep an eye out for the Yule ritual boxes that are going to be released very soon.
They're done. They've gone.
What?
People have them. That was like 2 weeks ago. It's okay.
We'll cut that bit
out. But have a beautiful Yule if you are celebrating, and let us know what you're going to do to celebrate. And if you want to connect with me more, you can find me on Instagram under Wiccan Sage. You can watch us. Hi.
Hello.
On YouTube under Rosethorn Cottage, or you can come and join me over on Patreon, where we've got a really awesome group of magical minds where we just talk about magic, and I've got like extra things on there that you can do.
Extra things.
Meditations that will be dropping very soon, actually. Yep. Extra podcast episodes, magical PDFs, all that stuff.
Yep.
So that's fun, and you can always stalk Paddy on Instagram too.
Yep. If you want to step into the world of the weird and wonderful, you can look at my Instagram.
Yep. At Paddy Harvey.
At Paddy Harv.
Paddy Harv.
And with the meditations, Amy's going to be doing a few meditations, and I'm going to be reading a few as well.
Yes, Paddy's got such a beautiful voice.
When I'm in character, it's very relaxing.
He does voiceovers professionally.
Professionally.
Yes, we're gonna.
That's right, Amy. And for just this weekend only, you'll save 25% off if you subscribe to my newsletter.
He doesn't have a newsletter, but he might one day.
I don't think so. But it's really a pleasure to be here on your podcast, Amy. And I, again, just really, really liked meeting you.
Oh
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
If this is a bit too forward.
Thank you so much for listening. And again, have a beautiful Yule, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
River Dirty.